Chapter 13: Sacred Architecture and Cosmic Alignment. Ancient humanity did not merely observe the heavens, it responded to them. Across continents and across thousands of years, civilizations separated by oceans and language barriers constructed monuments that share a striking common feature. They are aligned with the sky. Temples face the rising sun. Stone corridors capture solstice light. Pyramids mirror the cardinal directions with astonishing precision. Entire cities are laid out according to cosmic orientation. These structures were not symbolic decorations. They were instruments of alignment. To understand sacred architecture, we must step into the worldview of the ancient mind. For early civilizations, the sky was not distant. It governed survival. It determined planting seasons, migration patterns, river flooding, ritual timing, and communal stability. The heavens were a living calendar, and architecture became a permanent record of that calendar. Stone was memory, orientation, and order. One of the most consistent features of sacred construction is orientation toward the cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. The Great Pyramid of Giza is aligned to true north with extraordinary accuracy. Achieving this level of precision without modern instruments required sustained astronomical observation. Builders likely tracked circumpolar stars, those that never set below the horizon, to establish a stable celestial reference point. Why such care? Because direction represented order. In many ancient cosmologies, the world was imagined as a square divided by a cross-axis. The four directions symbolized stability, structure, and completeness. The earthly realm was associated with the square, grounded and stable. The circle represented the heavens, eternal and unbroken. When a pyramid rises from a square base to a singular apex, it unites earth and sky geometrically. Architecture becomes philosophy expressed through form. Solar turning points. Beyond directional alignment, many sacred sites respond directly to solar events. The winter solstice marks the shortest day of the year, the moment when darkness appears strongest. Yet immediately after, light begins its gradual return. Ancient cultures observed this carefully. At Newgrange in Ireland, a narrow passageway is designed so that at sunrise on the winter solstice, a beam of light travels down the corridor and illuminates the inner chamber for only a few minutes. For the rest of the year, that chamber remains dark. This was intentional. It required decades of observation. The turning of the year was captured in stone. Similarly, at Stonehenge, the summer solstice sunrise aligns precisely with the monument's central axis. Standing within the circle, one witnesses the sun rising over the heel stone at the longest day of the year. These alignments are not symbolic guesses. They are astronomical calibrations. Architecture fixed cyclical time into physical space. Mesoamerican light and shadow across the Atlantic. Mesoamerican civilizations independently achieved comparable precision. At Chichen Itza, during equinox, the descending angle of the sun casts triangular shadows along the staircase of El Castillo Pyramid. These shadows form the illusion of a serpent slithering downward. The serpent is not merely carved, it is animated by celestial light. This phenomenon occurs only during specific days of the year. The structure transforms from static stone into living event. Myth and astronomy merge. The serpent motif, associated with renewal and cyclical time in many cultures, becomes visible through alignment between architecture and the sun's position. Light writes meaning onto stone. The temple as cosmic model. Sacred architecture often mirrors cosmology structurally. Ancient Egyptian temples guide visitors through progressively restricted spaces. Outer courtyards are open and bright. Inner halls grow darker. The innermost sanctuary, accessible only to priests, is enclosed and dim. This spatial movement mirrors cosmic structure. The outer world corresponds to ordinary life. The inner chamber represents origin, the hidden source. At certain times of year, sunlight penetrates deep into temple interiors, illuminating statues of deities precisely. Light reveals presence. Architecture becomes dynamic. It interacts with the sky. The temple does not merely symbolize the cosmos, it participates in it. The axis mundi. Many cultures share the idea of a vertical world axis connecting heaven, earth, and underworld. This concept appears as sacred mountains, world trees, or central pillars. Pyramids embody this idea geometrically. Ziggurats in Mesopotamia rise in stepped tiers toward the sky. Mesoamerican pyramids represent sacred mountains tied to origin myths. In Norse cosmology, the world tree Yggdrasil connects realms vertically. To ascend a pyramid is to enact symbolic ascent. The structure itself becomes myth solidified. Architecture externalizes the invisible axis between realms. Megalithic knowledge. Megalithic sites across Europe and beyond demonstrate that astronomical awareness extended deep into prehistory. Stone circles in Britain align with lunar standstills, rare astronomical events occurring roughly every 18.6 years. Such alignments required long-term tracking of the moon's complex motion. This suggests not casual observation, but generational continuity. Knowledge was preserved not in books, but in placement. Göbekli Tepe, dating back more than 10,000 years, contains circular enclosures with pillars carved with animal symbolism. While interpretation remains debated, some researchers propose celestial correspondences embedded in these carvings. If so, organized sky observation predates agriculture. Architecture may have been born from cosmology, precession, and long cycles. One of the most debated topics in archaeoastronomy concerns precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that shifts equinox positions over approximately 26,000 years. Although ancient civilizations likely did not calculate precession mathematically, evidence suggests awareness of long-term stellar shifts. Egyptian temples align with the heliacal rising of Sirius, a star whose annual appearance marked the flooding of the Nile. Over centuries, due to precession, such alignments shift subtly. Whether ancient builders consciously tracked these epochal changes remains debated. Yet the possibility suggests that architecture may encode not only yearly cycles, but generational ones. Stone outlasts memory. Monuments may serve as anchors across millennia. Geometry and human perception. Sacred architecture is also deeply geometric. Triangles, circles, squares, and proportional systems appear repeatedly. The circle symbolizes unity and eternity. The square represents stability and the material realm. The triangle signifies ascent and directional movement. Some sacred sites incorporate ratios that produce harmonic balance. Human perception responds to proportion. Balanced geometry creates psychological resonance. Architecture becomes a form of spiritual technology, shaping experience through space. Cities as cosmic diagrams. In some cases, not just monuments, but entire cities were designed according to cosmic orientation. Ancient Roman cities followed cardinal grids. Angkor Wat aligns with equinox sunrise. Teotihuacan's layout reflects astronomical orientation. Urban design mirrors cosmology. To live within such a city was to inhabit a symbolic order daily. Daily movement reinforced celestial rhythm. Initiation through space. Sacred architecture also functions as initiatory environment. Narrow corridors slow the body. Darkened chambers alter perception. Sudden illumination creates psychological impact. To enter darkness and re-emerge into light mirrors mythic descent and rebirth. The initiate walks the story. Architecture guides inner transformation. It does not merely represent myth, it enacts it. Architecture as frozen myth. If myth encodes celestial pattern through narrative, architecture encodes it spatially. Myth tells of ascent, pyramids rise. Myth tells of cycles, stone circles form rings. Myth tells of rebirth, temples capture solstice light. Story becomes structure, stone becomes memory. Architecture is myth crystallized. A unified worldview. Sacred architecture reveals something fundamental. Ancient civilizations did not divide knowledge into isolated categories. Astronomy, geometry, agriculture, ritual, myth, and psychology formed one integrated worldview. To align a temple with the solstice was not superstition. It was synchronization. To orient a pyramid toward true north was not arbitrary. It was structural harmony. These monuments endure because they were built upon observation. They were built upon pattern. And when we stand by architecture, consciousness, and the loss of alignment. There is another dimension to sacred architecture that extends beyond astronomy and geometry. It concerns consciousness. Ancient builders did not separate structure from experience. They understood that space shapes perception. A narrow corridor alters breathing. A dark chamber sharpens hearing. A sudden shaft of light changes emotional state. Sacred architecture was designed not only to align with the sky, but to align the human mind. When sunlight enters a temple at the exact moment of solstice, the event is not merely visual. It is psychological. It creates awe. It reinforces the sense that the universe moves in lawful pattern. That experience stabilizes belief in order. It reduces existential uncertainty. It connects the individual to something larger than themselves. In ancient societies, this alignment between structure and sky reinforced collective identity. People did not experience themselves as isolated individuals. They lived within cosmic rhythm. Architecture helped sustain that awareness. Today, most modern buildings are designed for efficiency, economy, and utility. They are rarely oriented to the solstice. Few cities are built with deliberate celestial alignment. Artificial light removes awareness of seasonal change. Urban environments obscure the stars. The sky becomes background. But in the ancient world, the sky was foreground. When people gathered at a monument during a solar event, they were not watching entertainment. They were participating in cosmic turning. The structure made the invisible visible. Sacred architecture therefore functioned as a bridge between abstraction and embodiment. Astronomical cycles can be calculated intellectually, but when light enters stone at a precise moment, the cycle is experienced physically. Knowledge becomes sensation, and sensation anchors memory more deeply than explanation alone. This may explain why such monuments were built to endure. Stone preserves not only alignment, but meaning. Even thousands of years later, when modern observers witness a solstice illumination at Newgrange or watch the equinox serpent descend at Chichen Itza, the experience still carries impact. The structure continues to function. The pattern continues to operate. Another layer of sacred architecture involves sound. Some ancient chambers demonstrate acoustic resonance properties. Whispering galleries amplify subtle tones. Enclosed spaces sustain vibration. While interpretation varies, it is possible that builders understood the psychological power of sound interacting with geometry. Light, sound, proportion, orientation, all integrated. Sacred architecture was multisensory cosmology, and perhaps most importantly, it reflected a worldview in which human life was not separate from celestial order. Modern thought often treats humanity as disconnected from the cosmos, small and accidental. Ancient architecture suggests a different perspective. It suggests participation. Temples were not built to escape the world. They were built to synchronize with it. The movement of the sun across the sky, the rhythm of the moon, the turning of seasons, these were not background events. They were structural foundations. Sacred space reminded communities of that foundation. In this sense, sacred architecture was not merely about the past. It was about continuity. It anchored time. It stabilized identity. It aligned the temporary with the eternal. And even today, when we stand before these monuments, we sense something enduring. Not because we fully understand their builders, but because the patterns they encoded remain active. The sun still rises. The solstice still turns. The sky still moves in rhythm. And stone still holds the memory of that rhythm.